Thank you. You need something?
I didn't get to put the thing on, but that's fine.
Okay.
I'll do that. Okay. All right. There is a, you probably were like, what's this thing doing over there? There was a clear bucket right there. Oops, sorry, I'm spilling. No, I know. If you could bring that back. Does someone have a $5 bill I can hang on to? Can I hang on to a $5 bill? Does anyone have a $5 bill? Anyone have a $5 bill? Anyone? $5 bill, $5 bill. $5 bill, $5 bill. Really quick. If you could put it in that bucket, ma'am. Thank you. And just right there. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, good. Okay. Oops. All right. Could you, I'm going to actually run. Oh, yeah. Could you put it back on the presentation mode? On the very first slide, presentation mode. Awesome. How are we doing today? You have a good lunch? Yeah, all the way to the top, all the way to the top. And then press the first slide, and then there should be like a triangle to put in presentation mode. Perfect. All right. Women of valor and wealth. All right. So I just want you to know that there is a faith and finance workshop, okay? So it's a 4-hour workshop that the church puts on. They allow me to teach it, and that's where we get into the nitty-gritty. So I only have like an hour now, so this is really almost like just a taste of some things to be aware of, like some conceptual things, and then if you have time at the end, some implemental things to be aware of. But if you really want what she was talking about, you got to really invest that 4 hours into the workshop. So we'll be announcing when that is coming up as far as when the new year starts, okay? So I wanted to make sure I make that disclaimer. We have the $5 over there. All right. Samuel. We're going to go to Samuel. We're going to go 1 Samuel. And as you saw on the title, it's called Feelings, Fields, and Favor. Feelings, Fields, and Favor. So first, let's start with our feelings. And we know as women, we have some feelings, right? Men have them too, but we have some feelings. And I want to start in Samuel. So I'm just going to read/paraphrase this story. Some of you guys may already know it. So there was a man named Elkanah, and he had 2 wives. One was Peninnah, and one was Hannah. And Hannah means grace and favor. And it says he had 2 wives, Hannah and Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And every year they went up to the city to worship and sacrifice to the Lord. And he would give portions to Peninnah and all her kids. But to Hannah, he would give a double portion, for he loved Hannah, although the Lord had closed her womb. And her rival, Peninnah, also provoked her severely to make her miserable because the Lord had closed her womb. So it was year by year as she went up to the house of the Lord, and Peninnah provoked her, and Hannah wept and did not eat. And Elkanah said to Hannah, "Why do you weep? Why do you not eat? Why is your heart grieved? Am I not better to you than 10 sons?" Of course, a man would say that, right? And so while she's at this church, she would just have the bitterness of the soul. And she went to church and she just started crying and praying. And she made a vow to the Lord and said, "Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the afflictive of your servant and remember me, then I will, and forget not your servant, then I will give, and if you give me a male child, I will give him back to you for all the days of his life, and no razor shall come upon his head." And so while she's at this church, pouring her heart out, crying, Eli, the priest, is looking at her like, "Is this girl drunk?" And he says, "How long will you be drunk? Put your wine away from you." And so think about that. To be looking like you're drunk, or be praying with all your heart and be looking like you're drunk in church. I mean, if you're at the mall or something, folks are like, "Oh, that's kind of weird." But if she's looking weird in church, praying her heart out, I don't know what she was doing, but she was really passionate and convicting in that prayer. And she said to him, "No, I'm a woman of sorrowful spirit. I've poured my heart out and my soul to the Lord." And then Eli answered, "Go in peace, and the God of Israel will grant your petition which you have asked of him." And basically she got up, she fixed her clothes, and it says her face was no longer sad. And then they rose up early the next morning, and then they went back home. And it says Elkanah knew his wife, and to know someone in those terms means he had relations with his wife at home, and the Lord remembered her. So it came to pass that Hannah conceived and bore a son named Samuel, because I have asked for him. And so the year went past, and her husband went back to the church, but she stayed home because she had not yet weaned him. And then another year went past, and it was time. She had weaned him, and she brought the child to Eli and said, "O Lord, as your soul lives, my Lord, I am the woman who stood by here, praying to the Lord, for this is a child I have prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition, which I have asked of him. Therefore, I have also lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he shall be lent to the Lord." And they worship there. All right, everyone say Hannah. Hannah got some things to teach us, and I will show you, paralleling my experience that Pastor Ari mentioned with her experience and how it could connect to even your financial experience. Because I feel if you have a 6th grade education, you got the numbers down. You need to add, subtract, divide, know ratios and percentage. The big part is the mindset and the psychology and your relationship with money and the generational relationships with money that you may be subconsciously dealing with. And I want to look at that from a biblical point of view first, and then I'm going to end up with some practical things that we're dealing with today. All right, so 1 Samuel. The first thing I want to deal with, it said, the Lord had closed her womb. And I was like, God, that's an active sentence. That's not in passive voice. They're basically saying, you did this to her. You closed her womb. Why? What were you doing with that? Have you ever been in a situation where it's a struggle and you look up and you're like, wait, what lesson am I supposed to learn here? And in my own situation, I got married, and then I did our finances, and I realized we were that number in debt. And that's another thing. A lot of people don't even know how much debt they owe or what situation they're in. So we knew, and that's when I realized that basically God had closed our womb of prosperity, because he put us in a situation where I had to open my eyes. And if you look at the next one, because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, Peninnah kept provoking her. Now, the definition of provoked means to stir up, to arouse, to call forth. And I realized God put me in a situation of all that debt, and then told my husband to quit his job to provoke me. And I'm pretty transparent with my numbers. I work with kids and teens and with finances as well. And I feel like we speak in like abstract terms with them. Like, yeah, you take your money, you pay your bills, but I show them my paycheck, I show them my expenses. I'm very, very open. So when that happened, teachers make about $46,000 starting off, but the average income is about $50,000. So I'm a little bit above that. But Shane was making about $50,000. I was like, yeah, we'll be nearing $100,000, But then God told him to quit his job. So we had all these bills, and then our income was cut in half, like suddenly. And there was months where he brought in nothing at the beginning. But God provoked us. That was done on purpose. Had Shane kept his job, we wouldn't have felt the squeeze to wake up and to say, wow, this is an issue. So that provoking was on purpose. Who are the Peninnahs in your life? My Peninnah was Bank of America. That was my Peninnah. Because Bank of America is prospering, and here I am not producing, and I thought I was, and that was the issue. So yeah. Ooh, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. I kept the stack of insufficient funds that Shane had, like 10 of those bad boys, and they charge you $36 every time. So, all right. So next. So that was the first lesson she taught me. And it says, she was deep in anguish, crying bitterly, and she made a vow. So as we were getting through our learning and being provoked to action, we make promises to God. Like, Lord, if you just give me this job, I promise, right? Lord, if you just pay this bill, I promise. I'm going to start paying tithes on a regular basis, right? Lord, if you just see me through, right? Things come out of our life, our mouth, especially in times of desperation. But Solomon said in Ecclesiastes, be careful what you vow. Be careful what you promise God, because he's listening. And Hannah shows us exactly why. So she made a vow. And then Eli looks at her and is like, what's going on? Are you tipping too much? But he says, go in peace and God will grant you the request you've asked of him. Basically, she got a word from God. Like, God heard you, go in peace. And I just want to challenge you, how many times, and this is so me, how many times have you gotten a word from God and you're like, well, I don't know, he said this, but I don't know, God, is that really you? I need 10 confirmations, that that's you. And I've gotten prophecy over my life, and we've even got one this morning from Pastor Timmy. But when she got her word, she got up, she fixed her face, and it was done in her heart. When you get your word, is it done? And sometimes God will give you a big word, and just that doubt creeps in. Oh, I don't. So, and I try to keep my phone with me so I didn't record the one this morning. I was like, oh man. But I write them down, and I keep them in my journal. Even when I moved to a journal, that my words stay with me. When I was having my baby and I was in the bathroom thinking I was miscarrying, someone gave me a word 3 years ago when my husband and I were going through fertility issues that Shane would be elated when you birth your first son or your first child. And they said the word birth, not adopt, they said birth. And so while I felt I was going through that, I stood on that word that was given to me 3 years ago. Keep your words with you. So she got up, fixed her face, and prophecy is an invitation into a process. You have to partner with your word, and that seems to be the theme these last few months with pastors' sermons, us partnering with our word. And so there's that part. So early the next morning, they arose and worshiped before the Lord and then went back to their home. And Elkanah knew Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. Two things here. Number one, Elkanah suddenly got the urge to connect. And what that showed me, and what I've learned from just listening to mentors, is God will move people to make your promise come to pass. And this is true in your finances as well, and I'll give examples. Elkanah knew Hannah. God put that urging on his heart. And there's a scripture that shows this. It says, give and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down. We know this one, right? We say it all the time. The end part I've never really focused on. Shaken together, runneth over, shall men give unto your bosom. And the reason why I'm talking about that, because what has happened in my life in connection with my finances, God has put my face or something that I'm doing in front of people's eyes who have influence, and God has moved people in my life to further what's being done. But the first part has to be there, the prayer, the connection, the conviction that his word, and then being aware that God will move people and opportunities in your path for in your financial journey. So I was like, it says that? Like, oh my goodness. Shall man give unto your bosom, give unto the things that you are producing. So while your faith is not in man, God will use man to bring the promise about. So, and before I go there. So, the second part of that is, let me see if it'll go back. Elkanah knew Hannah, but Hannah still had to go home and do the work. Does that make sense? And Pastor Morale touched on that, and we've heard that. And I need to drive that home because I call it couch responses. A lot of people think like, oh, I've prayed. Let me go home and sit on the couch and wait for checks to fall out the sky. right? Especially coming from a certain demographic of church folk. Like, it's like we don't want to do our part. And I remember taking Pastor Ari home one time, and I was like, Pastor Ari, I don't understand it. When you guys do the altar call for finances, it's filled. But when Anjali does the announcements for the Faith and Finance workshop, 2 people sign up. So there's a disconnect. You got to do the work. You got to read the book. You got to come to the classes. You got to see what Psalms and Proverbs says about financial stewardship. We can't just say a prayer and then sit back on our couch. And I've had checks come in the mail. I'm not saying he doesn't bless that way. We all know that he does. But I don't want to live a full life of just sitting on the couch waiting for checks to fall out the sky. We have to do the work. And I can tell when I sit down with couples, and I'll check back in 2 weeks later. It's like, okay, well, did you read this book? Nope. Okay, well, did you sign? Nope. Well, you're telling me you're not willing to do your part. So Hannah went and did her part, and the Lord remembered her. All right, does that make sense? All right, so Hannah made a decision. After she had the baby, God blessed her. Haven't you had that blessing in your hand? You like, won't he do it, right? Won't he do it? Yes, he will. Hannah had this baby for 2 years. For those of you who don't know, I just had a son 7 months ago. Yeah, thank you. This is still here, but that's a whole different sermon. It's like I cut out bagels and everything, but it's still there. Praise the Lord. But Hannah, basically with my son, Sean, I have nursed him. I have taken care of him. I've taken him to the doctor. I've consoled him. Hannah has raised him. I can't imagine after 2 years saying, Pastor Ari, here is Sean to live with you. Pastor Timmy, he's yours to serve God under you. And I'll see him once a year and give him a little coat. Like, we read these stories as Bible stories, but these are actual people. No one in this room can imagine doing that. And they were hours away, or maybe days away. I don't know how far away this tabernacle was. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because we've been there. We may not have given a child, but we were like, okay, God, you got me this job, but I know I was going to start paying tithes on a regular basis, but times are rough. Times are rough. Or we say, or we say, she could have said, well, God, this is my only child. I know you'll understand. See, what had happened was, right? We say it, but she made a vow. She made a decision. And the kicker is, you think you're being tested in your faith when you're going through struggle. You think you're being tested in your faith when you have nothing left and that red bill, when the bills get red and they come to your house. I've been there. I have been there. When your phone gets turned off, who remembers cell phones being turned off? We're sorry. This phone is typically disconnected, right? I don't know if they do that today, but back in the 90s and the early 200s, they did that. You think you're being tested in faith and believe in God to come through at that moment. The real test is when the blessing comes. And are you going to follow through? Here's my example. So we realized that we had the debt, and then we went to class. We found a Dave Ramsey class, went every day. We got on a budget. We tracked our expenses, and we set our goals. And then God said, start thinking about your ideas and how you're teaching and start sharing those. So I did. And I submitted a 4-page application to an award called the Ron Clark Award with Kim Bearden, whose birthday is today. I just wish her a happy birthday. They started a school, and they have these teacher awards. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll just write about how I'm just really fun teaching math, and I get on the tables, and I do songs, And I said, okay, God, I'm submitting this. And then once it's submitted, it's in your hand. I'm not going to worry about it. I got a phone call that I was one of the 5 finalists. The same morning, I lost my cell phone in the bathroom, but that's a whole other story. Normally, when bad things happen, don't get an attitude because something really cool is about to happen right around the corner. I've learned that lesson. Don't get an attitude because something good is right around the corner. I just locked my keys in the trunk last week. $160 later, after the lock guy, keysmith, came, something good right around the corner. Watch your attitude when bad things happen. But they called and said, you're now a fine finalist. $1,000 you won automatically. We're flying you to Georgia. And I was like, okay, God, even if I don't win the main prize, I'm just happy to be selected and share what you've been doing within my classroom. But it's in your hands. And when they called my name for the main winner of the whole thing, they put a $10,000 check in my hand. Okay. No restrictions at all. I didn't have to use it for my kids. I didn't have to give some or whatever. But before I knew that I won, I said, okay, God, I feel this. I know I automatically give tithes on it, but something's telling me to promise you that if you let me win, I'll give you half of it back and put the other half to the debt. And I made a vow before they said my name. And so once they put that check in my hand, that's when you're like, oh, well, but I was like, no. To Shane, we made a commitment. So I texted Pastor Timmy and Pastor Ari right away because I believe in accountability. I do that a lot now. Like, by the way, this should be coming to you, because the heart can be crazy at times. And we wrote a check. One of the largest checks that I wrote to this church and to some other organizations that this church supports. And what we need to understand in Hannah's story, when she gave Samuel back, that wasn't the child that she prayed for. Samuel was the test. I need you to get that. Samuel was the test. Samuel was what opened up her womb for the other blessings to come through. And if you keep reading through the chapter, she went home from the tabernacle praising God, singing these beautiful, beautiful praises. Read the second chapter. And then God blessed her with 3 sons, or two sons and 3 daughters, 5 more kids. So God knew what was in the pipeline. Hannah just saw Samuel, but she still she still followed through. A lot of times we forget to follow through. So that prize money for me, that wasn't the blessing. God's still doing that. That was the test. Really think in your life, where is that test? Where is that money showing up or that opportunity showing up where you made a vow to God or you know what the Bible says to be doing with a portion of that? And are we failing tests? A lot of times we can't get to the breakthrough as there's no reason me talking about what to do about building wealth if you keep failing tests. Does that make sense? So I really want to make you aware of being aware of, is this a test? Because the main point is, can God trust you with the blessing? Pastor Ari spoke that over me one time in a prophecy where she said that word, and that word stayed in my ears. Trust. You trust God on a lot of things, on everything, but can God trust you? Because with money, it changes folks. You see it in the news. It changes. It not changes folks. It shows what really people are all about, right? And so if God can't trust you with $3,000 a month, why is he going to give you $30,000 a month? Why is he going to give you an organization that needs $30,000 a month to run if we're not able to do the instruction and the education on running our household of $3,000 a month? So keep that in mind. So Samuel was not the promise. Samuel was a test. The rest of it was the promise. So the main point that I want to, let me see, we're here, is our feelings. The first section was our feelings. Hannah could have been in her feelings. She could have been crying and she could have been like, I just can't do it. He's my son. But because she was connected, she was able to pass that test. We as human beings, psychologically speaking, are controlled by our feelings a lot of times without us even knowing it. Advertisers know this. You have the best psychological cognitive scientists who are working for these companies who are putting us in our feelings. And that's why you have like people and going through the disaster relief. I heard this story of Katrina, and they got their disaster checks coming in. So many went straight to the mall. A few went back home to build. So many went straight to the mall because I just want to feel worthy for a second. I just want to feel like I can buy a Coach purse and not have to think about it. We're in our feelings, and we've placed our validation and our worth in material objects that this nation or this culture has told us to. So once you become mindful of your feelings and say, I know I feel this way, but I know my worth is in Christ and what his word says about me. And kind of like what Pastor Morale says, it really doesn't matter your thoughts about me because I go from here. If you really internalize that, you will see breakthrough in your financial area, because a lot of our financial woes sometimes is the income, but a lot of times it's the outgo, right? And if your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes your downfall, right? So being mindful of our feelings. Self-control, the Bible talks about self-control. And so knowing how to really monitor that. All right, so let's show God that he can trust us, that he can open up this resource pipeline for reasons I will get into later. And he doesn't have to worry about our feelings running the show, because the Bible says the heart is unstable. So we really need to connect with what God's words say. All right, Pastor Ari, could you put $1 in that bucket for me, please? You know, I'm an elementary school teacher, so I teach by example and different random activities and stuff. So, I wonder what's going on over there. All right, everyone say fields. I can't hear you. Say fields. All right, fields. Here's the second point. So the first point, can God even trust you with the blessing? While you're expecting, huge or decent amount of blessing, financial blessing, can God trust you with what to do with that? The next one is fields. This one I want to base on Malachi 3. You've heard this several times, but I want to maybe hit it at a different perspective. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house, and try me now in this, says the Lord of hosts. If I will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you such a blessing that there will not be room enough to receive it. What type of culture is he talking to? You can call out. Are they an industrial culture? Say it loud. Yes. If you're a farmer, what type of blessing are you praying to God for? Someone said it. What? ¿Cómo se dice en español? Lluvia. What'd you say? Raino? Lluvia. If I'm a farmer, if I'm praying to God, what am I praying to him for? Rain. God brings the rain. But let's say, Anjali, I'm going to use you because you're basically the example of the day, and Pastor Ari might use you too, because Pastor Morale used you. Let's say Anjali was like, I'm expecting God. Here's my field. Seed. Anjali's out there planting seeds because she's expecting God to bring what? And I say, well, I'm just sitting on my couch. Now, God, it says in the Bible, God reigns on the just and the unjust. But what did Anjali do that I didn't do? She planted seeds. Now, second example, let's say Anjali planted seeds and I planted seeds. But my field is 10 by 10. But Anjali's like, oh no, I'm just doing some extra stuff. I'm going to do 100 by 100 acres. Now, we both pay tithes. God's bringing the rain. We're both committed to our vow of paying tithes and paying off, or not paying tithes, but giving tithes and giving offering. And God brings the what? Rain. The rain. Who was going to have a bigger harvest? Anjali is, because of her fields. Now, what does this mean in practical day to day? God sends the rain. Here's what really astonished me was that the tithes and the offering were not enough to produce prosperity It only caused the conditions for prosperity to come. They still needed to plant the seeds in their fields, and some of us need to have bigger fields. Here's what my example is. I'm an educator by craft. I went to school to be a teacher. God spoke to me and said, you are a teacher, you are an educator, but that's not your only field. I remember standing here and Pastor Timmy had his book launch of his first book, and I heard God said, you're going to write a book. That's all. I was like, excuse me? Wait, I'm sorry, what? I'm a type of person of action, so even if it's not being done, I put it on my cards, and whether author, I haven't put one word on a white page, and I'm putting author on my business cards, because I speak it, and if you do that, do it, because it works. But lo and behold, I'm walking in some office, and one thing happens and another, and shall men give unto thy bosom, someone offers me a book deal. From that came $20,000. We're still talking. They already paid me the $20,000, and the book is not published yet. But the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm a teacher. If I stop there, that's there. If I didn't, and another thing is, I'm up here speaking. I went through years of speech therapy. I should not be up here speaking. I stuttered my whole life, even into my adulthood. But because I had to look at other fields, I went to a Toastmasters meeting, which is an organization where any one of you guys can sign up, and you can go and you can practice public speaking. I said, okay, well, maybe this is an avenue that I'm supposed to be developing. I had to use my own time. I had to pay dues. And now people pay me to speak. So not only are you an educator, you're an author, and you're a speaker. This happened, so that's been happening a few years. Another field that just opened up, and I'm not saying this to say, ooh, look at this stuff. I'm saying this to really challenge you, to really take to heart that Pastor Morale said. It's not out there, it's in you. All your fields are in here. But are you willing enough to stop and meditate on the word and really have an introspective time to say, okay, where are my gifts? Where are my gifts? So the consulting came up, and a lot of times you may feel unworthy, and that's practice with you breaking through that ceiling, that financial ceiling. I started my first job at Kmart making $4.75 an hour. Praise the Lord. Now I make more than that as an educator, but there's people who ask for $500 an hour and don't even blink twice. Can you ask for that amount and feel okay? It's harder than you think if there's a ceiling there. So where do you expect God to bless you? Are you doing the work, planting the seeds, looking at your fields? Any gift you have could be an income stream. It could be a servanthood, and it could be, a lot of these places I served first without getting paid. I would write, I would blog, I blog for an organization. They don't pay me. I don't get paid to do the faith and finance classes. That's 4 hours of my time. I could be at home playing with my son, playing video games or whatever, but I'm here with the 2 people who signed up, teaching. Now people pay me to do this. But I did 3 years of just doing it for free. And then God a lot of times will turn your servanthood into an income stream, because your heart is in the right place. And going back to that very first point, what was the first point? He can what? Trust you. Because he may call you to I know you've been getting paid, but now I need you to go and serve this organization. So your heart has to be in the right place. So, okay, so how to discover your fields? Pray, listen, and then you have to obey. If God tells you to write a book, those books Pastor Timmy's writing, they just don't show up on the page. He has to wake up early in the morning and sit down at a computer and do it. That's a commitment. That's a sacrifice. Another thing that turned me on was, if you have an idea that just won't leave you, have anyone dealt with that? It keeps showing up and showing up and showing up. That's probably God telling you need to do something about this. It might be an ought. I just posted this on Facebook. I'll talk to you about my Alumni 360 group. Is there an ought in your life that keeps bugging you? Oh, someone ought to do something about that. Someone ought to do something about that. That someone is probably you. All right, so that's how you can start discovering your fields. And these fields turn into income streams. All right. Okay, favor. Everyone say favor. Oh, Pastor Ari, can you take $2 right now? Put it in the bucket, please. I know. Awesome. All right. Once you, she's so wonderful. Round of applause for our pastor, please. Okay, once God starts blessing you, and it will happen if he can trust you, if you're doing the work, if you commit to your vows, and you're looking at the fields that are internally in your bosom that God placed there before you were even born, God will start favoring you in these areas. But the question is what? Why? Why do you want to be blessed? There was a story that I've heard Bishop Jake say, or a young pastor that wanted his church to grow. And he went to a mentor and said, I really want my church to grow. I really want a lot of folks. And the other bishop was like, well, why? He was like, okay, well, your church isn't going to grow because you don't have a why. Because it tells me that you're more focused on ego. You want to look like you're a pastor of a big church, then you're focused on function. Oh, I want a big church to reach my community. I really want to make sure that people in the local area have a place to get identity forming. I really want to make sure we have enough people to really, really run our homeless program. He didn't have any of those. He was like, he just wanted to be a pastor of a big church. So that means that's an ego place of thriving as opposed to a community body of Christ. What is your why for being blessed? Do you have a plan? God always comes in and he can shake them up, but what's your plan? I have a why for $100, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, and $1 million. If you give me a check for $1 million, I know exactly where it's going, and who it's going to, and why, and what's happening, either within my house or within the community or within on the global. Do you have that written down somewhere? So why would God bless you with 10,000 tomorrow if you have no clue where it's going to go? Because if you don't, where do we retreat back into our carnal feelings, and suddenly you're on the car lot at the mall. Tiffany, right? Okay. All right. So, and we know this one, you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the what? The power to get wealth, the creativeness to get wealth, the creative ideas to get wealth. Why though? ¿Por qué? So that he may establish his covenant, and which he swore to your fathers as is this day. So what I tell folks is your money needs a mission. Your money needs a mission. It's a tool, not for you to be all high and mighty and to have people envy who you are and to make people feel small, which is none of your intentions, but for some people it is. So because they're so insecure in who they are and they don't know who they are in Christ, they need that stuff to feel high and mighty and to look down on folks. Forrest Gump has a great quote. There's only so much money a man needs, the rest is just for showing off. Yes. So, but as a Christian, we can live in abundance because we know God has a pipeline for us to get blessings to you and through you. Some are for you, but a lot of it is through you. So as Shane and I were getting out of debt, he was like, okay, stop. You need to help this person out. Stop. You need to buy this student glasses. I was at Walmart buying a student some glasses because she didn't know her math. It wasn't because she didn't know math. It's because she couldn't see the board. But God will stop you, and you may be like, okay, pay the debt. But listen, because that could be a test. And your plan is to pay off debt straightforward, but God's like, pay off debt, help this family. Pay off debt, I need you over there. Okay, pay off debt. And he sees that. I will bless you and make your name great, so you shall be a blessing. Your money needs a mission that is greater than you. Does this make sense? God knows your wants. God knows that I would love to buy a house one day. God knows that Shane wants a Tesla. That's no secret. That's on Shane's vision board right now. God will bless us with that as long as our focus is on him. These are little knickknacks. The Bible says the streets of heaven are made of gold. God, you want little trinkets? Okay, but first things first. First things first. God knows your list, but do you know his? I'll say that again. God knows your list, but do you know his? And if it's in there somewhere where it says the widows and the orphans and the poor, is this not what it means to know me? So if none of your energy is focused on that, that's attached to your financial abundance as well. What does it mean to know God? It is plain as day, somewhere in the Bible. You probably, I don't know where it is. Pastor Timmy probably knows where it is. Pastor Timmy! All right. But is not what it means to know me. All right. So to review. Oh yeah, I wrote, be careful asking for favor. To him much is given, much is required. Careful what you ask for. Lord, I wish I had $1 million. Okay, there's a big responsibility with that. Talk to Bill and Melinda Gates. The big responsibility. So if you can't handle it, keep your mouth shut. That's what I have learned. But if you're able to do the work, then God can trust you, and you're able to do amazing things in the body and on this earth. All right, so here we go. We're going to power through, and here are the practical issues, and I'm going to step on some toes. Forgive me, but God won't let me let this go, and I love you all the same. I'm just going to say that. Okay, everyone stand up, stand up, and turn to a neighbor and say, my money has a mission. Say, your money, tu dinero, has a mission. I don't know how to say that in Spanish. Mission. All right. And give them a high five and then have a seat. All right. Okay. Here we go. Están listo. Are you ready? All right. I'm going to take a sip. And this is not alcohol. Just so you know. You've been drinking? I can't believe he said that, though, the priest. Hannah's like, no, I have not been drinking. I'm a woman. Like, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? All right. Who is this? This is me. This is me. Oh, yeah? Oh, Sean's a little light. Oh, huh. I never saw that. It's weird if other folks can see. I was about to put a picture of him, too. Who is this? That's me. Yeah, that is me. There's an app that can make your face old. Studies show that if you look at yourself as an elderly person, you're more apt to get your finances in shape now. So I highly recommend you get there's aging booth and there's Oldify, which I think costs money. Careful. To see who you are as. And I would say 65, but my mother is 67 and she has no wrinkles. So I'm going to say that's like 82. Okay? And that is me a few years ago. I wish, like 25 or something. Oh. Okay, so women and wealth. This is why this is so powerful. My ladies, everyone say ladies. We need to get it together because the stats are not looking too promising. And here's why. Women hold 2/3 of the student loan debt. For whatever reason, either we're staying in school longer, we're getting out more loans because of childcare. Whatever the reason, women hold 2/3 of the student loan debt in this nation. Then you graduate, and you're dealing with the gender pay gap. White women make about 84% compared to a white man. My African American women make about a little bit 64%, and Latina women make even less than that. So not only are you graduating with more debt, you are paying it off slower because your income, statistically speaking, is not as high. There's the other thing of childcare. Women leave the workforce to raise kids for a certain amount of time. And so that time you're not paying into Social Security, you're probably not paying into retirement. So that's another ding. And then, this is a great show, by the way, I love this show. I was like, why do I love this show about older white women? It's like, oh, because, maybe they're ostracized and whatever. But yeah, I like that show. Anyway, thank you for being a friend. Women live longer than men. So Pastor Ari had the great example. Thank you for setting me up. A lot of women abdicate financial decisions to their husband, which means you're not a part of what's going on. And today we're going to change that, because if you're living longer than men, women are 8 out of 10 times more likely to be single in their 10 or more retirement years. Either their spouse passes away or due to divorce, which those numbers are rising as well for older women for whatever reason. So because of these stats, it's imperative that women get financial education earlier. All right, so like I said, the average income is $50,000 a year, which is about $3,300 a month. Another reason why we're not either saving for retirement or putting some things in place is because we don't really know what that looks like number-wise, right? How much money do you need saved in order to maintain that lifestyle of $3,000 a month? Does anyone know? Call out. How much money do you need saved in an account that spits out interest for you to live off the interest, and it'll spit out $3,000 a month? Thank you. Of course, the man answers. Come on, ladies. How much? Okay, we'll just go with that. Actually, you're pretty close. Let's see. About $430,000 in an account saved in order to maintain the lifestyle of having an income about $3,300. See, no one shows us this number. Okay? And a big issue, and here's my toe stepping, and some of you guys know where I'm gonna go, is our cars. Okay? Some issues, the income's not coming in, wages are stagnant, different things are going on. But when I sit with couple, after single person, after young person, this is the issue that I'm finding. That I sat with a colleague of mine who used to teach at my school, beautiful girl. She has a little boy, and I said, okay, well, what's in your savings? By 200. What's in your retirement account? Very, very small amount. Okay, well, tell me about your cars. Oh, she's leasing a car for 5 years, or three to 5 years, and her husband felt he deserved it and bought a car that was $40,000. So I see this. I look for patterns over and over again. No savings, no retirement, no life insurance. If something happens to one of those income earners, that's how people get thrown into unexpected poverty. So I am on that rampage of getting this issue taken care of. Now, if you have a net worth of over $1 million or a strong net worth, you can take the depreciation hit. But for all of us, all of our cars are going to end up where? So every car payment we send, it's going there. So we want to minimize that payment as much as possible and pay our cars off and get back to women. We need to invest. We got families to take care of, and you got to take care of yourself in retirement. Here's another concept that a lot of people don't factor in. If you're taking notes, write down Dave Ramsey investment calculator. And I'm almost done. All right. Here's where you look at the opportunity cost, where you say, instead of doing this transaction, if I put it in an investment account where it can grow, what does that look like? What benefit am I missing out on if I don't do that? Does that make sense? All right, so the average car price today, I just looked them up, for 2018 is about $30,000. The average car payment is about $500 a month for 60 months. That's the time it takes for a 5-year-old to get to kindergarten. Now, Susie Orman says if you can't pay off a car in 3 years, it's probably too much car. So keep that in mind. You want to keep your term 3 years or less if possible. If this person who is, let's say they got the car at 25 years old, and they paid it for 5 years. Now they're 30. I don't know if you can see that. That says 30. If they would have taken that money, that $31,000, and put it in an account that made 10%, they would have had, by the time they're 65, $885,000. At 10%, if it's 12, it'll have been over $1 million. A lot of times people renew their leases or or get a new car after that 5 years. If they did that twice, now they're looking over $1 million. If they would have just, instead of doing the car purchases, put the money in an account, and that would have been, they would have had over $1 million saved up by the time they're ready to retire at 65, which my mom is 67. I'm realizing that's not that young. I mean, that's not that old. That's not that old. 65 is not that old. 95, you're getting up there. But 65, not that old. Another thing I want you to think about is always look at the benefits versus the cost. The benefits of a car. Call out. What are the benefits of a car? Transportation. Getting the basic essence of a car is getting your physical body from one place to another. And you do have freedom, but you can get wherever you need to go from the bus too, right? But that's the basic essence of a car. Doesn't make you smarter, doesn't make you a better person, doesn't make you healthier, doesn't make you more compassionate, or there's no other benefit of a vehicle. But because our culture has done such a brilliant job of attaching our identity to our vehicle, that's why you have the situation of the family that I mentioned that has no assets anywhere else except their car, and their car is going to one day be in a junkyard by the time they're 65. Does that make sense? All right, so quick question. Would you rather have a penny that doubles every day for a month or $1 million? Every day for a month. ¿Por qué? You know it's a trick question, right? But why? Because of compound interest. Anjali, could you pass this out, please? Or, you know what? Actually, no, wait. I'm going to pass this out at the end because I want you to focus on me and then because I have to rush through. So, the fast answer is the $1 million, right? But the smart answer is compound interest. What people don't understand is you are doubling, so you're getting 100% return every single day. That other example that I had of a car, that was only a 10% return. This is 100% return. So if you took the penny, you're going to end up with 10 million, not 10. Here's why. And this graph is on the paper that I'm going to give you because your job is to go home and look at it, study it, and share it. This guy, Tony, let's call him Tony, let me see, there you go. He saves $85 a month, which is about $1,000 a year, for 10 years, from 25 to 35. $85 a month. Most of us can put away $85 a month, right? He stops at 35 years old and just lets it sit there, and he goes off and does something else. When Tony is 65, he has a total of $1,557 if there's an 8% return. Not 100%, 8%. He only saved for 10 years, and then he stopped and let it sit there. John did the same thing. And John saved, that says 885, the same amount, but he started at 35, and he did it for 30 years. How much money does he have? $122,000. Who has more, John or Tony? How much money did Tony put in? Loud. $10,000. How much money did John put in? $30,000. So why does he put in more money and he did it for longer, but he has less at 65? Here's why. Oh, not that. Here's why. I know. It's because time, rate of return, and the amount you put in, those are all three factors. But time is one of your most important factors with investing. And I know a lot of us aren't 20, and you can't go back unless you have a time machine or you know that film Back to the Future. But the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So if you're not investing, we should do a faith and finance class just about investing, because a lot of my people of color don't get this information, and a lot of women don't get this information. So once again, and this is on this sheet. So my last thing I'm going to just share is I'm a woman of action, and I was provoked to do something about this. So I started the Seed for Change investment initiative, because time is one of the most important factors. The people who really need this information are our teenagers, right? So what I decided to do is I started a program where I asked professional women to seed, right, looking at seed time and harvest concept, to seed a young woman. Because we all say here, who wants to say right now, I wish I would have had this information when I was 20? Don't you all, right? I wish I was getting my financial aid check and buying Skechers and spending my money. I worked hard. I wasn't a lazy person, but I just didn't know where to put my money and how to make it grow so I can build wealth. And because time is one of the most important factors, I started this program that I quickly want to share with you. I asked professional women, and I'm also asking you guys, if you want to be a part of this program, to jumpstart a young person, either in your life, or if you don't have a young person, you can jumpstart one of my kids, and say, I wish I had this when I was 20. I didn't. I'm going to help another young woman start. I feel so passionate about you building wealth earlier on that I want to be a part of your story and a part of you growing in this area. So the kids have to commit to, so they have to work. In order to start a Roth IRA, you have to have employment of some sort. And the kids commit to investing $25 a month while they're going through their school. And when they graduate, and now they have their job and they're like 25 years old, they have to turn around and go seed another young girl. So I'm trying to figure out, God, how do we get a massive revolution of our young women, especially our young women of color and our young women from lower income backgrounds? How do we really switch them from these cycles of poverty and not building wealth? This is my idea. And I hope that you'll join me. So I put my money where my mouth is, and I gave Brenda, who's 19, $100. I ran after my mama. She gave Monica, who's 19 and going to Kenyon College, $100 to start her Roth. And then I don't know who seeded. My colleague seeded Kate. That's Monica again. My little brother, I went after, well, he actually heard about it and was like, I want to be a part of this. And so he seated Antonio, and I sat with him yesterday and gave him his check. And he was like, yeah, my parents aren't investing. And that's the thing is, we're not hearing it, so we're not doing it. And if parents don't know, kids don't know, grandkids don't know, and it's a generational ignorance that is plaguing us. So I would love for you to join me if you want to. So to wrap up, number one, what does it say? Show right now that God can trust you. Number two, be aware of your gifts and your possible income streams inside of you. Your gifts have value. Number three, when you get these monetary blessings, how are you supposed to bless others in your community and around you? God's looking at that more than you buying stuff. And number four, start looking at every dollar that leaves your household. How many dollars are appreciating and how many dollars are depreciating and heading into the junkyard or the trash? That's how we can do this. So together we can do this because all things are possible. Pastor Ari, if you can put that in there. And so this last example was, what's your name, hon? Jasmine. At the beginning of this presentation, Jasmine invested how much? How much is in the bucket now? She just doubled her investment. Can you give all that back to Jasmine, please? Jasmine didn't have to really do anything. She just had to commit to a decision. She had to, and she just left it there. Now, normally, if there's a perfect world, Jasmine would have been continuing putting in $1 herself as I put in $1, and then her investments would have grown even faster. It's really not that hard. The main thing is people don't know how to get started. They don't know where to go. They don't know what a Roth is or IRA. So I'm really big on just giving us the information we need to get started, and I walk with those kids hand in hand and help them set up their accounts. So now if they choose to stop investing or choose to take out the money and go to Vegas, they no longer have the excuse, I did not know. That's what I'm robbing. So thank you so much, and we'll pass out these, and you're good to go.
Wow, thank